Yes, hello Australia, and welcome to a very special edition of Tough Love today, where we salute the life and times of the late, great Paul Hester. I'm Mick Molloy. To state the obvious, I'm joined as always by Robin Butler. How are you, Robin?
I'm feeling very excited,
Yes,
actually, about this.
I think we all are. And joining us as a special guest today in the studio is our old mate, Tony Martin. How are you, Tone?
Not bad, and been down in the archives.
Yes.
Quite a lot of bizarre clips coming up in the next hour.
I've got to say, in a strange way, it's been an excellent way to spend the week. Rummaging around through 750 two-hour tapes, basically panning for gold, panning for Hesse gold. I think we came across maybe 40, 42 interviews over the 4-year period of Martin Molloy, and some of them are hilarious, some of them are unplayable, some of them I can't believe ever went to air.
And you couldn't choose a worse person to do this with, because you get the rundowns out and there's no semblance of structure, order or sense. There's just Paul Hester raves on for 2 breaks.
That's right.
And so I can't say that we've managed to track down everything.
No.
For every one thing we're going to play, there'll be 7 that we just can't find.
And I tell you this, if Dave Graney ever dies, we've got him covered too. It was fascinating. We should point out, look, we had a roster of guests on Martin Molloy, and Hesse was a regular, and we had to say it was one of our favourite. If we were ever short or in trouble or needed someone at short notice, Hesse was the guy, and he never failed to deliver. Deliver what? I'm not sure. But he never failed to deliver. He was a truly great man, a individual. I don't think they'll ever make another one like him. And it was a pleasure to be in his company. So what have we done, Tone? We're going to play some crowdy songs today, play you some bits. Maybe tell a couple of dopey showbiz anecdotes.
That's right. That's just the way Paul would have wanted it.
It is. What are you sitting on over there, Tone?
Well, we've had a lot of requests for... do you remember a few years ago when Paul had to fill in for Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil?
That's right.
Have we got that? Do you want to have a listen?
Yeah, the Oils rang up. Hursty was sick. Phone Hess was the call at the Oils office. They got to me at 2 p.m. I was promptly on a plane at 4 p.m. to Adelaide, to the said venue.
Here's what Rod Savage in the Advertiser says. While drummer Rob Hurst could have been out in the cold with pneumonia, former Crowded House drummer Paul Hester was thrown into the hot seat and produced some of the best instinctive drumming scene.
That's a lovely way of saying getting it wrong. But moving on.
It says you had to feel sorry for the guy. You could tell he just had no idea with some songs. It's like he shrugged and said, let's go for it.
I think I said something along the lines, what are you going to do, Garrett? Sack me?
It says here that the Oils have got a bit of a wheel on stage. They're spinning the wheel, so they don't know what song's coming up next.
64 songs on the wheel, babe.
Well, it says it landed on Warburton. Hester didn't know it. He hadn't. Joe Garrett even heard it. Spin again. And it was out of the frying pan into the fire. For Hester, it landed on the scorching Progress.
Yes.
He just about got through the demanding drumming of US forces, but it was the drum solo and power of the passion that finally did Hester in.
Mate, I just barely hung on by the skin of my teeth.
Right.
I had Pete in my face, inches away, going, US forces! And I was just going, geez, man, I only remember the chorus. They had one song, they'd come up, little powwow before every song, come up to Hesse. Okay, Hesse, this one's a flow, this one's a slow, this one's got to stop in the chorus, it's got to stop in the chorus. Yeah, it's like funky. No, it's like Motown, slow, easy, just take it easy. This one's an easy one, take it easy. And then they count it in. 1, 2, 3, 4! I'm thinking, Jesus, man, I can't wait for the fast one, you know. And then they leave that at the very end of the night. The fastest one, they do that one, I don't want to be the one. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm with you. Get me out of here, Hursty, get back. And the very end of the song's just got Garrett just standing on the rise and going, about 6 bars. And you're supposed to play the drum fill all the way through it. Oh,
and you're there with a pair of brushes going, when do these come in?
Blood was coming off the hands. I was just tapping aimlessly at the tom-toms. I think I hit something like a microphone, and I think it just sounded a bit... out the front, and people just generally went with it and thought, oh, well, you see, that's a jazz thing, obviously.
You're listening to Tough Love on Triple M with Mick Molloy, Robin Butler and Tony Martin as we salute the life and times of the late Paul Hester. I think that previous break was a classic example of a bloke just running off at the mouth.
That's right.
But somehow keeping it all on track. I said to Tony half the time when Hesse came in, we would look just like two rodeo clowns.
Yeah.
You basically had to keep one eye on Hesse and just keep pushing him in the one direction.
And there was no sort of mechanism between something popping into his head and coming out his mouth. There was no filtering. There was no part of the brain going, maybe I shouldn't say that.
No.
It's going to air.
Which we love. We love that about him.
They're like black box recordings, these bits, aren't they? What have you found for us this time,
Well,
Tony?
I'm not going to play this bit that I'm just going to mention because he gave out Michael Gudinski's phone number one time on air. Do you
That's
remember
right.
that?
His actual phone number.
He just said, anyone out there's got a, an unsigned, wants to have a band, and just call Gudinski. Call this number. And he just gave it out, and about 700 young musicians were calling.
Fortunately, Gudinski had call waiting.
But we've got just a couple of examples here of Paul Hester running off at the mouth.
I don't know about the Spice. I mean, this whole thing, it might just roll on. There might be Spice boys. There might be Spice grandparents. It could just go on endlessly. I mean, I think they should be taken to Norway and put down. That's what happens with those sort of groups in Europe. They pop up every 5 minutes. None of them can play anything. None of them can say anything. One of them's, banged someone at the back of a gig somewhere, and next thing you know, they got a bloody record deal. I'm telling you, that's how it happens. The only thing good in music is when people misbehave. I'm going to bring it back to the kids. There should be more misbehaviour. The Spice Girls are a false bloody misbehaviour bunch of bloody lying, cheating, money-grabbing, bloody useless bastards. If they come down to my house, if they come anywhere near the shed, that's it. Cauliflower ears, bloody undies up the crack, out the door. No more bloody, get out. The handsome boys, it's a funny thing is they've been ringing us up asking, what do you do when you get backstage? We're just a bit green to the whole thing. There's chicks everywhere. There's people, on the go, on the pedal. Our parents aren't here. We're getting offered everything left, right and centre. Have a sniff of this, have a drink of that, get in the back of there, turn this light off here, turn the music up there. Bob's your uncle. What's your name? Never mind. How tall are you? You'll fit in this box. There's someone in there. Jump in. They're coming at us with all this stuff, and we're saying, go with it, go with it. Here's Gudinski's number. Give him a call. He'll help you out. He took skyhooks through it. He held Shirley's hand. It's all right, Shirley. Don't worry, mate. Hold my hand. There you go. Now you can do it. Red, he took them all through it. Sherbet, skyhooks, AC/DC, the lot. Gudinski was there for everyone. He was there for the crowd. He's probably there for Hanson now, sitting in a big chair in front of him. They're all on the floor, cross-legged, just looking up at him.
You're listening to Tough Love on Triple M with Mick Molloy, Robin Butler and Tony Martin as we pay tribute to Paul Hester. And joining us at the table is, we are, I should point out, fishing out some old bits from Martin Molloy, some of the interviews we did over the 4 years with Paul Hester. And the producer of that very show has joined us live in the studio. Please welcome Peter Grace.
They fished me out while they were fishing out all the other stuff.
We found him down in the basement.
Wondered where you'd gotten
It's
to.
a sealed crate with holes drilled in it.
I said I was going to wait for you.
That's it. Gracie, you are a great friend of Paul's,
Yeah.
and you were exposed to his antics on our show. You also, I should point out, were working with Paul on a lot of Indigenous issues.
Yeah,
and I should point out to everyone that was one of Paul's great things in his life. He
was
cared deeply about Aboriginal issues.
He was patron of the Your Voice Party, which was started last year, the political party started by Richard Franklin. He put a lot of time into working with Indigenous musicians through a project called Songlines, and he brought every bit of enthusiasm and musical talent and integrity and love to that that he did to Crowded House.
That's
But
right.
he spent an equal amount of time on your couch.
He did. He spent a very long time on the couch, and look how lucky were we to know this little guy. And I had the double bonus of actually being in the studio with you guys while all of this madness that we're listening to was going on. But he spent a lot of time on that couch. The story I've been telling lately is just about 2 weeks ago, he turned up one night in his pajamas with his golf hat on. He'd been out playing golf all day with these old men, and he'd been the youngest guy on the bus. And he's doing impressions of all. He goes, Paul, I'm retired now. And he's just doing, he's falling into his little voices and everything. Then he pulled out a video DVD of the episode tomorrow night that's going to air tomorrow night of Rock Quiz.
A rock quiz.
Yeah,
where
which was only shot a couple of weeks ago.
ago. He'd just come back from, well, it was a couple of days after that we saw this, but he's playing Wipeout on the brushes. And even he gets bored halfway through it. So watch out for that if you can see it. And the other one was the story about him buying the house.
Yes.
Remember that story? He turned up because he was living just near me, and he bought another house just around the corner. But he turned up at the auction on a dragster wearing a cowboy hat and his shorts. And I think they were the baggy shorts with the orange fluffy stuff hanging off them. So it was a really good look. And he came up and he joined in the auction and encouraged everybody else who was bidding. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to behave at an auction, he said. But he encouraged everybody, and then he bought the house. And then at the end of the scene, there's two real estate agents standing there as Paul rides off on his push bike with his cowboy hat and his orange fluffy shorts going, "No, I left my checkbook at home. I really do have a checkbook."
And we had someone call up after that went to air, and I was at that auction. He was making most of his bids from a banana lounge.
Yes, there was a touch of the Hunter S. Thompsons about one, Paul Hester. You have a clip, Gracie, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Now, we've been working on these little TV ideas. We've been making our own little homemade TV show called Hellwood for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just something. One day he was sitting on the blue couch in my place, and he was wearing a blue shirt, and so I just pointed the camera at him. I thought, oh, that looks good. I'll just ask him a question. So I asked him about the first song he ever wrote. What's the first one you wrote? First song you ever wrote?
It could have been written before. Something along the big ocean blue waves come crashing in like the thundering chill. Something like that. It's interesting how the melody fitted the chords. Then I thought, I'll be down in a minute, Mum. This thing's writing itself. It was something along those lines.
There you go. And it just got better and better.
Yep.
And Paul Hester would jump boots and all into any mad segment we had going on the show. I've just got a few random clips here. And I should just point out the first one, the music that you're hearing under it was on the original clip.
On the Gold Coast, had a day off, thought I'd go for a swim down to the Gold Coast beach. Into the water, beautiful sunny day, kiddies everywhere, families, kiddies, everyone happy. Blue bottles came in, thousands of them. They came running in, like 10 of the truckload.
Right.
I got one on my finger, I flicked it off as quick as a whip like that. I just got a fright of my life. Unfortunately, it zapped straight across the water and landed on a little fat kiddie's back. Now I know that's a bit rough. I ran out of the water, and the bloody finger was killing me. I ran up to the surfies, the lifesavers. I grabbed the bloody vinegar, chucked it on my finger. I was burning, and I finally got rid of it. Unfortunately, emptied out the bloody vinegar bottle and proceeded to walk over to my towel as I saw the young little kiddie come up to the surf lifesavers. I was trying to tell him, they didn't have any vinegar left, and his dad was trying to comfort him. I just want to say that I'm sorry and that, music's a funny thing, but
You threw a jellyfish
I'll sign it.
onto a fat kid's back.
Yeah. Well, that's easy, isn't it? Try and hit a skinny one.
Today's celebrity clacker belongs to Paul Hester, so aim carefully and see if you can give him a split end. Back to you, lads.
I've never heard Pete Smith say my name before.
or the word clacker, for that matter.
Oh, that's just fantastic.
A couple of firsts there. I understand that why Paul has to have these trousers around his ankles, Tone. But why do we? Why do we have no pants on?
I've never understood that.
It's been mystifying me now since we started this competition.
Don't get me the wrong way, but did you guys go to the same school?
Hello, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Do you know Paul Hester?
I've seen him around the TV, yeah.
Would you like to shoot him in the ass?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course you would.
Here it is.
Bend over.
Hey! Hang on, wait till I've got my blindfold on, Hester. I don't want to see it.
There it is, Julie. Get your Shoot that in the eyes, you can have the whole thing.
Okay.
Oh, God.
All right, start the clock, Gracie.
Up.
Yep.
Across to your right.
Yep.
Down a little bit. Up a little bit more.
Shut up, Esther. Your left was that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fire.
Hey, you missed me.
Oh, no, Julie, I'm afraid you've shot our producer, Gracie.
Lady Diana's funeral, cut to the bloody MCG, Saturday. Funeral's going on, everyone's at the MCG. Stop for a minute's silence, the entire MCG silent. Except for 3 blokes in front of me. I heard one bloke yell out in the middle of the silence, "You're an idiot, plug out!" Only in Australia.
You're listening to Tough Love on Triple M with Mick Molloy, Robin Butler and Tony Martin. Do you remember the time he told us on air, I think the Crowdies were playing a gig in New Orleans and Sting was seen backstage rifling through Neil Finn's songbook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right. And Hesse, I think, busted him. And as you can imagine, wasn't short for a word.
No, cop to serve, I'm guessing.
The funniest stories about concerts he'd been to overseas. He claimed that he once went to a concert in Germany with Glenn Fry on stage. And Glenn Fry was performing in front of a large sign that said, Glenn Fry, ex-Eagle. How embarrassing is that? So you're watching the show. Who's it? Just look up there. Oh, that's right. And apparently Paul tried to get the roadies to lower a giant. He did this. He made one out of pipes. He made a giant S and tried to lower it down so it said Sex Eagle. Just for his own amusement. That was the kind of thing he did.
Here's my card, Glenn Fry, ex-Eagle. You're listening to Tough Love, and we're going for a stroll through the incoherent ramblings of one Paul Hester. Paul, we all live in the same neighbourhood. Robin, I understand your girls go to the same school.
Yes,
Girls.
yes,
Right.
that's right. So I've got that odd thing where I keep forgetting that Hesse was a very famous person because
Right.
he's just a parent
At your
at our school,
Yes.
and our kids play together in the netball team,
Yeah.
and he will be very sadly missed at our school. Though I dare say the assemblies will be a little quieter. Because he was prone to a bit of a heckle.
Yes, the headmistress, I believe, copped the
Yes.
odd spray.
Yeah, don't you remember he actually came in on the show one day
Yes.
and started talking, what's all that about? The national anthem?
Indeed. In fact, I remember going through St Kilda one day and seeing Paul Hester up a cherry picker with Magda Zhansky, and he was wearing a cape. I think it was the same, the Espy or something.
Stop a development that was going to be above a certain number of stories high. So he got in the cherry picker to show you how high it was, and he was the neighbourhood developer or something like that with the mask and the cape and.
I'm going, get down, Hester. I'm not coming down. I'll never come down.
Take it up higher. Take it up higher.
He is indeed. Tony, what have you found for us now?
Well, one of the great things about Paul is you could just mention any name. You could just pluck a name at random out of the paper, and he'd usually have a story. Did you work ever with the village people in your...
Well, Tony, that will take us back. Let's see. That will take us back to 78. 78, 79, rock circa, 78, 79, Melbourne, Festival Hall. You would have seen the village people there. You would have seen the Osmonds at the Palais on the same night. I remember the double header. I was a roadie and I was loading out for both.
Yeah.
And I actually got a gig on the village people, and they asked me to stay with them for a few nights and hold this Portaloo on the stage. For the first song, they had all the equipment on the stage. They had the army guy comes in a Jeep, and the cop comes out on a motorbike, and Randy the cowboy jumps through the saloon doors, and so I had to hold the Portaloo for the worker to jump out.
Is that true?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that absolutely
Yeah.
true?
Oh, well, there's all roadies holding props for the first 30 seconds before the show starts. There's a 30-second curtain call, like a blackout on stage. So you have to be on stage holding your thing, getting ready. So I'm on there holding this Portaloo on the floor, sort of in blackout, and every night. Randy, the 7-foot cowboy, it was his gig. He had to stand behind me to jump out through the saloon doors. So he was crouched down behind me every night for 30 seconds in the dark. And after 2 or 3 nights of this, after the show, I get this American tour manager comes out and goes, "Is there a Paul on the crew?" And I said, "Yeah, Paul. Come over here, Paul." And he took me into this room and he gave me this little chat and said that that Randy it was, a bit of an insomniac and loved a bit of a cup of tea. I wondered if I felt like popping in to visit, I could go and see him on the 13th floor at the Hilton, and they gave me the room number. And I just went, my God, this roadie gig's really opening up, isn't it? There's all sorts of tricks. So,
You've got your chaps on.
I thought about it.
You've chapped up.
I finished the gig and I got in my little Holden and I drove past the bloody Hilton Hotel at 3 a.m. in the morning. I looked up. Sure enough, there was a light on the 13th floor. And I kept going and I just imagined my poor little white, in there just ordering room service and cleaning everything, and just, can I go now? Move that Super Trooper, then you can go.
Here's what happened just before we're doing this segment. I'm going down the list. I'm going village people. I'm going, Paul, have you ever worked with village people? Okay, yeah, I've got a story. And I'm going, is it going to be clean enough for the radio? And Paul's gone, I'll give you the version I told my mother.
She's deaf as a post. She can't hear a thing. She just nods at me now and smiles.
What a fantastic anecdote for the memoir.
Well, next week I'll tell you about the Osmonds loadout.
Oh, we'll get to that.
You're listening to Tough Love on Triple M with Mick Molloy, Robin Butler and Tony Martin as we take a look at the life and times of Paul Hester outside of work and, of course, all the many shows and bands he played in. We got to socialise occasionally. He loved playing golf. I can say this. He is the most annoying golfer in the history of the world. And when Hesse rang you up for a game, you put your hand over one end of the phone and go, gee, am I up for this? You can only watch him wiggling his little bot for so long. But I had a place down the coast at Cape Shank, and we took him down there once for a card game. It was me and my friends, and we were up all night playing a game we called AC Doocy, which is a pretty fierce betting game. Anyway, Hesse was, by 5 o'clock in the morning as the sun came up, Hesse was completely tapped out. He had lost everything to one of my friends, Rob, and to stay in the game, he goes, I'll give you one of me gold records. and Rob goes, which one? And the bartering began. So he was putting on gold records on the table.
It would have been Toot by the Wiggles, which he did in fact play on.
He was the chef in the Wiggles.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of information. One of the many shows he was on was a show called Hesse's Shed.
Yeah.
I think, did we do the first episode?
We sank the series, Mick. Wow. We're in the last show.
Another one I've shut down.
Well done, Mick.
But they're running one, I think, on the ABC this Tuesday night, and I'm hoping it's the first one, which was a corker where they had Crowded House getting back together, and also Fred Dagg made an appearance. So that's the one they're playing. But we got sent a fantastic document by Paul's dad, who's a mysterious figure up the territory, and he sent us a journal.
Right.
And it was Paul Hester's journal when he was 7 or 8 or something, and we read it out on the show, kind of celebrity roast style.
Yes.
And I think there's just a brief clip of that. Look at this. Personal file. Paul Hester, aged 8. Yes, check this out. 23rd of October, 1967. So this is like 31 years ago. My ambitions. Music. To become a leading drummer in the world and have a successful pop group. How's that? We have cheddar! To stage a series of shambolic nights at the Espy. Check. I've added that. But here we go, let's check the rest. Sports. To become a great footballer and a great runner and a really great surfer. School. To become a successful student and get my diploma, etc. But the best one, mainly, to never ever become involved with the police.
And you know what is so funny? I don't think in my life I've met a man who has a healthier disrespect for any kind of authority whatsoever.
That's right.
So the idea that somehow he didn't want to annoy the police couldn't be further from the facts.
But hey, let's, enough of our rambling. Let's hear some of Paul's rambling. And I think during the course of Martin Molloy, Paul's daughter Sunday might have been born, and he always had stories about her on the show.
Lots of things get him on the telly. I took him to the basketball, see the Tigers, Melbourne Tigers play, and Tiger Man came out,
the mascot,
and she cried all night. I had to take her home. It wasn't a Tiger Man, trying to put her to sleep, and it said Tigers.
How old is the kitty in question, Paul?
She's 23 now. No, she's 2. She's 2. I mean, fair. She arcs up to things on the TV like the healthy, wealthy and wise thing comes up and she'll go,
Apple, you know, and then that's all she'll watch all night.
You know, the chef on that program does exactly the same thing. Apple.
And then, they're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah. And does she have any perception of what you get up to for a job, Paul? Do you ever put on the Crowded House videos and say, check out Dad bouncing around with a wacky hair?
No, I don't want to scare her yet with the videos. We'll introduce those a bit later with all poor old Uncle Nick and Uncle Mark and Uncle Neil's hairdos and lipstick. Yeah. No, we'll leave that. We just run. She thinks when I come and see you that I just go to your house and talk on the radio back to her. No one else hears it. She doesn't think anyone else is listening to this.
She may well be right.
There you go, love.
So it's a two-way, especially for her amusement.
Tony Mick, Dada, Tony Mick. You know, that's what I do for a job. I go Tony Mick. I had a huge crush on Renee Gayer for years.
Really?
Oh,
did you ever act on it?
Yeah. No, I wish I could have. I used to follow her around. She sort of had this girl who was the head of a cheer squad, you know, fan club. And
right.
she, you know, she was sort of, you know, a bit of an each-way bet. And, you know, I never knew if I was in or out or whether she liked Renee or she liked me. We used to kiss and cuddle, but then we didn't do any, you know, I like Renee, she liked Renee. We all like Renee. Renee liked Renee. Yeah. And one day I sort of acted on it. The closest I got is I was in at Moomba. She was doing eight or nine gigs at Moomba. I went to everyone and I stood behind this tree and waited for her. And I jumped out and took a photo of her. And she turned around and screamed at me. Told me to piss off.
And has she taken out a restraining order subsequent to that?
I've never mentioned that.
Yeah.
And since then, years later, of course, in the crowd, you know, I sort of met her and become a bit of a friend and stuff. But now I don't know. She's listening. She'll probably realise that I was that little weasel guy.
So she missed out on her opportunity to become Mrs. Renee Hester. Could have been the showbiz marriage of the year. I'm just interested, Paul, that to get to Renee, who you have a crush on, you start going the snog on the head of her fan club. I mean, what's going on in your head? Was this like a three-point plan?
I don't know. I just wanted to get in there somewhere, Mick. You know how it is.
Yeah. Tough Love on Triple M with Mick Molloy, Robin Butler and Tony Martin as we pay tribute to Paul Hester. Gracie, what were you saying about that song?
He told me a story once about how they were about to release, or they were picking the next single, and they were going to have a vote, a three-way vote on what song should be the A side of the single. So he went, well, I'll vote for Don't Dream It's Over as long as one of my songs goes on the B side of the single.
So he's trying to crunch the numbers.
So he got his 50% of that, actually.
Oh, I'd love to see the crowdies dust up. We haven't actually talked much about the bands. We've played some excellent music from Crowded House.
Yeah.
Did we find some bits, Tone?
Well, the thing is, Paul was in a number of, significant bands, but if you listen to him talking about those bands, you know, he never took himself too seriously.
Nick rang me. He's the only one who talked to me. God bless him. And we had a good old laugh about ourselves generally and our lack of hair and knowledge. And we decided to get back together.
What did you break up for in the first place?
I just got sick of him, hated him, wanted to go. I was sick of bastards. Whinging, wanting. No, they wanted to go on and conquer the world, and I said, I think we're done. So I left. And they didn't conquer the world, and then now they're ringing me up. We used to keep a logbook on the road.
Right.
Every night on the bus, we'd put the tape in, and we'd listen to this thing, and we had the logbook, and we'd be writing, oh, that's the best one we've ever done, you know, and all this. And, of course, you know, there'd be a few spliffs going around, everyone would be pot-soed. So, I go back to this logbook years later, and it's got, like, as the lists went on, it got more ridiculous to the point where, you know, systematically, sublime version, most and best version ever, whispers and moans. Now we're getting something, best version ever in the universe of, you know, it was like crap. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, I got the gig to join Split Ends for the end of it. I think I was the beginning of the ends of the ends.
Right, okay, it was all your fault.
And they all wore makeup, of course. Yeah. Well, because I'd had 10 years to bloody work it out. I just jump in from Glen Waverley High School. Next thing I know, I got blue eyeshadow on. I'm trying a bit of lippy. And I just look like a big queen from Toorak. And I just thought, is that me? Is it, you know, and I went on with that for years and sort of looked at a few photos, and it was very, very tragic. And basically, not many people knew this, but ends were very big on cross-dressing. There was lots of man's ears underneath those cossies. I don't think people realise that.
And what have you kept? What have you still got in the closet? Did you just throw it all out for the salvos? You know, are there?
No, I found some Crowdies pants that I wore for a few years, which the arse fell out of. Because my job was, of course, sitting on it. That's what I did for 2.5 hours on stage each night. Sat on my arse and just talked. So those pants were gone. Apart from that,
there's not terribly much. I had a really, really bad silk shirt.
Oh, okay.
Tom Jones style. But I still wear that. That's around the house in my trackies.
Just drumming with a couple of biros.
You just wave out the window and people think, God, he's successful, he's in silk, he's lovely, he's lavish. But downstairs you got the bloody trackies, you know, with a big stain on the front, you know.
Now, what about the new band, Largest Living Things? There's a lot of talk, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype on the street. Are you adopting outrageous outfits?
I can't say too much about Largest Living Things because it's just in its embryonic magical stage.
Yeah.
And there's mystery and there's things going on I can't explain.
I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. What's gone wrong? What's happened, Paul? Someone's pulled the pin. Something's gone wrong. You don't give me that guff.
All right. Gadinsky came down. Third night, I think it was. We did 3 or 4 in a row. Bloody Gadinsky came down with half a Sony hanging out his wallet. And they all walked in the bloody back of the room, scratched their cods and looked around and said, who the bloody hell's that on stage? A stupid peanut. Is this moving pictures? And then they left. No one's called. Oh, I've got a deal. The only bloody deal I got was a pair of cards at home with some nudie pictures on them. I deal them out to myself. It's about the only deal I've had all week, Mick. You're onto it. You can smell her out, son. Yeah. I've asked you to manage me. I've asked you for help. Then you just stand back and laugh. Both of you.
There you go. The incoherent psycho of one Paul Hester. And I'd like to say hello to Big Kev and Barry Stockley, the other members of the Largest Living Things, who were also the band that performed on the Mick Molloy show for all 8 weeks.
Yeah.
The hardest working band in show business. We should point out, if you would like to see Paul, Saturday night, is it Rock Quiz?
Rock Quiz at a bizarre kind of 9:15 prime time slot, I think it is on SBS. That's tomorrow night.
There
I'd go at 9 just to be safe.
Yeah, just to be sure. Get rid of Inspector Rex.
Indeed. Thank you for all your emails. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Are we all done? Are we all silent? There you go. It's a very sad occasion. And look, Paul Hester is going to leave a gaping hole in our cultural landscape and all our lives. One of the bravest men I ever met, and he will be missed. And
It's very hard to be sad listening to these clips.
I know. Well, that's it. You know what? But he is around forever, because I'll tell you what I'll do. Whenever I've got big decisions, whenever I've got something I need to think about, I'm always going to go, what would Hesse do? Vale Paul Hester.